Greetings and welcome everybody here today, both physically and virtually. We are the representatives of the Students' Voice. My name is Nera. I'm in my fourth and last year of Upper Secondary School of Electric and Computer Engineering and Technical Gymnasium in Ljubljana. And these are my colleagues.
I'm Gregor Griltz. I go to France Prešeren Secondary School. Oh, is it not working? Is it working? Okay. And yeah, I live in Kran.
Hello, I am Živa Žanet Kramberger and I'm coming from Secondary School of Economics and Gymnasium in Maribor.
Hi, I'm Katja Bembič and I come from secondary school in Izola for preschool education.
Hi, I'm Zala and I'm currently in the third year of Kamnik Grammar School.
Hello, I am Lan Cvek and I go to the third year of Grammar School Center in Celje.
As you may notice, we're all from a very variety of educational institutions. So the digital age. Yes, the digital age is integrating into all parts of our lives, and education is definitely the one that affects us and our future the most. And growing up as a part of this generation, as our generation, sort of means that we are the natives of the smart technology era. And statistically speaking, the society is climbing this educational ladder, since newer generations are always more likely to pursue college than their predecessors. And while this sounds very promising, being immersed with technology from such a young age could have its advantages and shortcomings as well. And this being an advantage or a disadvantage depends on how children, teenagers, and young adults are taught this knowledge, of course. And as we were discussing and preparing for today, we concluded what we thought is the most important. We are looking forward to what digitization brings to education, but we do not want education to become just one big database. We wish to learn with the advantage of better simulating what we cannot come to physical touch with, and to discover more ways to expand our long-term memory. All of this should be achieved in a way available to everyone and in reach of all who yearn for knowledge. So what most educational workers, educators consider an issue is finding the right mix between traditional and digitally enhanced teaching methods. So the IT development, of course, is progressing really fast, but the integration might seem slow in certain countries. So one of the things most students probably wish to see and are probably looking forward to the most is the digitization and virtualization of the learning environment, meaning the educational institutions, classrooms, etc. So that's where we spend our time the most. Depending on how educational institutions infiltrate more screen time, it does not necessarily have to have a bad influence, of course. And it might even help develop certain motor skills. Instead of spending most classes writing down theoretical parts of our subjects, a lot of valuable time could be used to paying attention to the explanation itself. Many sciences research today stand in need, actually, of very hard requirable examples to be understood better. And at least partly virtualizing this explanation could inspire so many future scientists. So one of the ideas we had during our discussions is the vital need for a platform that has it all. And while some of the platforms are already attempting to do this with schedules and communication and other things, we also need learning materials which are way more accessible, maybe some artificial intelligence that aids students at any time. And involving such a platform would make progress more trackable, would also enable recording content for later use, and the whole internet of resources, which would let them learn and solve problems more independently. We all agreed that this is something that should be free, available to even people who have no access to educational institutions. and that many students who wish to travel while pursuing their education would need such a platform, which is globally connected and could help those choose schools in other countries and maybe even learn the language. As all branches of industry are also getting more digitally enhanced, using all of this technology through basic education would prepare the workforce for using technology in their workspace.
As we mentioned, the most noticeable change with the rise of the digitalization will be in the learning environment. Students nowadays are taught in such a way that they see the problem and they have to try to find the solution. But nowadays, with the modern technologies, sometimes they should be able to create the solution themselves, because that's just how life works sometimes. It is essential to mention the virtual learning environment, considering the past 2 years. It made us realize just how much IT knowledge we lacked, students as well as teachers. That's why we believe that people in the future should have more IT knowledge, even on a lower educational level. IT knowledge is not important just for education, but for life as well. Global networking is essential for modern day business, education, as well as all other relations. So yes, students nowadays should be able to realize the difference between problem-based learning and challenge-based learning, and to recognize when using each one is a better solution for a given problem. That's why we strongly support learning IT technologies in schools, because it doesn't matter to which high school you go or to which university you go, you will need technology. Technology is evolving at a rapid rate, faster than ever. So it is very important to not be afraid of the future and the technology, but to face it. So we strongly recommend, and we believe that all students should be able to at least understand technology, not be afraid of it.
So in today's day and age, there's a lot of talk about the school system we are currently in. As we all probably know, most pressure comes from the outdated grading systems our schools have been using, despite it having more negative effects to it than others. We like to tell ourselves that a grade is not the skill for our current knowledge, while our further education depends on it. This is why we are proposing an introduction of digital portfolios. With it, stress would be taken off of students' shoulders, while emphasis would be put on progress and hard work instead of current knowledge or just general well-being of students on the day of the examination. Teachers would also be able to look back on their students' work and grade them on how hard they have worked to achieve the level they're at today. With the introduction of digital portfolios, there is also no more need for campaign studying, which is in short, just cramming all of your studying into a short period of time before an examination, and it's very popular nowadays. And with it, information that students learned would be retained better and for a longer time, which is just another benefit to the students. Now, another proposition from our side, and this is a big one, is the complete abolition of our current numeric or alphabetic, depends on the country you're in, grading system that we have been using since the 19th century. Instead of that, we would like to introduce the pass or fail grading system. It would still let teachers have an insight on the students' current knowledge, or even better, teachers could grade their students based on their effort and their hard work, but it would take away the stress of students comparing themselves to others by grade. So here I should also point out the issue of grades determining whether someone can enroll into a university course or not. We really should ask ourselves why a bad grade in a science class can prevent you from studying languages or social studies and vice versa. This is why, instead of that, we would like entrance exams for universities for the specific subject someone would like to be studying. Universities could also take into consideration the digital portfolios we mentioned earlier of their candidates for the subject or subjects someone wants to take courses in, to see the efforts their candidates have made to get to where they are today. So if we combine all of these, We get a grading system that puts an emphasis on progress while taking away the stress of our current grading system, and also progresses further by making it digitized with the digital portfolios. Entrance exams for universities take away the pressure of doing well in classes we do not need in our futures. So it's a win-win situation for all.
Technology is our future in everything, including school, as we've come to realize in the past few years. Grades and attendance can easily be marked online and at the same time distributed to the students and their parents. Through different sites on the internet, we can easily step in contact with our teachers regarding any concerns or questions without a problem. And we can reach out to our classmates and other students just as easily. During our discussions and even talking to students outside of this event, we noticed how much the younger generations wish to upgrade the note-taking system. They claim it would be much easier and faster to take notes using using laptops or tablets. That can at the same time be an advantage and a disadvantage. Traditional learning methods are still favored by some, but digitizing this would make it much easier to separate the more important information from the lesson. It would also help slow writers, less organized students, and absentees. That's why we would like to present to you an idea for better and easier school and studying management for both the students and the teachers. All notebooks, workbooks, and notes could be replaced with one tablet per student. That way, we could have everything we need in one place. No more losing your notes or forgetting your books at home. Each student would have, of course, have their own each student would, of course, have their own account that they could access from home as well, so they could study the homework and organize everything in peace. If you're absent, a classmate could easily send you a copy of their notes, and the teacher could send you the worksheet they worked on in class. We could also save up on the paper and lighten up the weight on students' shoulders with how heavy our bags usually are from all the books we have to carry.
Enhancing the material we learn will probably come along with this digital revolution. Students simply lose interest in what they consider irrelevant information. That is why digital tools might help teachers make it more relevant. It might be hard for the newer generations to understand the meaning that certain discoveries and events had at the time of their appearance. Whether it is fortunate or not, students often ask themselves and their teachers, when will I need this? The truth is, we might not need it, but we all have a long way to go with choosing our career path, and such a small piece of information can change a lot. An interesting and simple solution would be teachers taking some advice from their students and coming to terms with what interests them and adding it to the program of the subject. This might be a way of motivating them by making their opinion more relevant. We compare this to oral examinations during which students have the task to present a topic they like. In such way, they are encouraged to be more independent within the comfort of their own screen, while they also learn how to differentiate real information on the internet. Nowadays, the material in the fields of ET, technology, and economics is constantly changing and has a big impact on our daily lives. All this is difficult to follow, often even more difficult to teach. Many times, because of the increased use of media and internet, students have more information on these topics than teachers. That's why we would appreciate that teachers take into account our opinions, views, and claims, as they are often overheard. The school system should be modernized along with the evolution of society. Here, I would like to point out that our newly acquired knowledge could be presented to the class through various digital tools and in many different ways using the internet. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in some schools, but it should happen more often because it would make lessons more interesting for students as for teachers. For example, if a student makes an interesting presentation or video on a topic of their choice and present it to the class as a teacher, It would certainly add variety to the lessons, and we also learn something new.
So as much as we would like to focus on the positive effects, we have to face reality as well. Digital learning environments, tools, and platforms all require a certain amount of knowledge on how to use them. This means even older generations of educational workers will have to undergo some courses which would have to be consistent with the growth of technology. Another downside is the probable loss of certain educational, long-term memory, which is usually gained with the traditional studying and teaching methods. Although this issue has its solutions, apps such as I Can Write or ABC cursive writing, these apps allow children to learn cursive on a touchscreen, which is very similar to writing with pen in notebook. Similar methods could be applied to note-taking in higher grades. This would also maybe feel a bit more comfortable than typing on a keyboard, and besides all that, a huge amount of paper would be saved. I forgot what my next part is. Oh yeah. Another example is ebooks, which cannot really replace the experience of holding physical book covers. They are safely stored on our smart devices and can be accessed from basically everywhere in the world. So the learning material is way more accessible. But what most of us consider the biggest issue is, what most of us consider the biggest issue is the screen exposure of children and people in general, which has been unfortunately growing a lot for the past few years. This heightens the risk of myopia or damaging their eyesight, but it can be somehow prevented by wearing blue light glasses or using protective glass on the screen. So, despite all of its advantages and disadvantages, digitalization of education is unavoidable. We should use these advantages to the fullest and strive to lessen the shortcomings through the further evolution of technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's nice. It's refreshing to hear the other side, because we more or less agree between each other what we want to achieve in education for you, because you are the future of people of the future. But I think, as you can see from the presentations, there is a progress toward those goals. Maybe not grading. We cannot promise you that grading will change in the near future, but other things are changing, and I hope that they will change more rapidly now with this digitalization across Europe and the world. Maybe one comment or questions from the audience, and then we go on and conclude this session. Are there any? Maybe okay, you must understand that we are older people, tired, we are hungry, thirsty, we need air, fresh air. So maybe just one short question from all these topics that you mentioned. What do you think that now, in Slovenia at least, is a thing that you would try to change immediately or in the next few years? In terms of course, digitalization and so on.
Probably the learning environment, considering what we mentioned about better simulating the science that have really hardly requirable examples. This would make it much easier for students to understand, at least virtualizing the explanation partly.
So the topic that was presented here several times here, and also I think that they will be also tomorrow at the conference. So thank you very much again.